Hello and welcome back to the EV Geek podcast. I am your host, Joel, and it's good to see you all today as we talk Rivian. In this episode, we're diving deep into the exciting world of Rivian as we unpack the latest updates to their game-changing R1S and R1T models. From enhanced performance to innovating technology, join us as we uncover what these updates mean for the future of electric vehicles. Let's get charged up. Hello, everyone, and today's episode is all about Rivian. This week, Rivian has introduced updates to the R1T pickup and the R1S SUV, enhancing their performance, range, and technology. These updates aim to further solidify Rivian's position as a leader in the electric vehicle market, offering improved driving experiences and sustainability features for consumers. The recent updates to the R1T and the R1S include enhancements to their battery performance with increased range capabilities, as well as upgrades to their onboard technology systems, such as advanced driver assistant features and connectivity options. Additionally, Rivian continues to refine their off-road capabilities and sustainability initiatives, ensuring that the R1T and R1S remain at the forefront of the electric vehicle landscape. We are joined by Sebastian from the Kilowatt Station to give us more details regarding Rivian's bold moves with their refreshed Gen 2 lineup. Sebastian, how are you doing today?
Great.
So I thought it'd be great to have Sebastian on. I've been following him on X, and he's been posting a lot of the updates about these Gen 2 cars from Rivian, and I thought he'd be the best person to tell us what's going on. So we're going to dive deeper into Rivian's announcement to focus on some of the specifics. First, Sebastian, what has Rivian done to change the appearance, both interior and exterior of the R1S and R1T? These are all both pretty sick-looking cars already, but I know they made some tweaks. What are they?
Yeah, so really exterior-wise, not a whole lot changed. It's all kind of minor tweaks that add up to a bigger package. One of the most notable things you'll notice on the cars are they changed the front and rear light bars. And on the light bars, they added basically at the bottom of it, there's now like a dynamic strip of LEDs that can do, they show examples of it doing like charging status, like there's 10 bars and each 10% it goes up one. And they've also shown some interesting, like when you have your hazards on, having it do kind of like a pulsing red, which is pretty neat. They've also changed some stuff on the headlights. They're now a dynamic matrix LED system. And they also removed the fog lights and moved the turn signals down to where the fog lights used to be. On the outgoing car, the fog light was actually built into the ring on the stadium light. They've also, exterior-wise, they've added some new color options. There's a new blue that you can get on the tri-motor and quad-motor config. And then they've also added a new dark-out package, which replaces all the silver badging with a kind of black satin finish, as well as darker
what I'm
skid
looking
plates.
forward to.
Oh, yeah. And then exterior-wise, also R1S, they did some updates to the suspension to make it ride better, but the R1T, they left pretty much alone. From what I understand, the R1T already rode pretty good, but the ROS had some crashy issues that they've hopefully resolved on the Gen 2 vehicles. Interior was largely unchanged. There's some new material options and colors, and they've updated the infotainment and UI. The new UI has kind of got a more animated, kind of cartoony look to it that I really like. It fits the Rivian brand really well. You know, it doesn't take itself too seriously. And there's some new performance enhancements, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then they've also added a new premium sound system that uses Dolby Atmos. That's optional, as well as the new Ascend trim, which is available on the tri-motor and quad-motor configs. And those have those come with plaid floor mats, which is interesting to me because you're basically, when we talk about performance later, the quad motor is a beast, and you're basically wiping your feet on the plaid.
Yes. I wonder who they're talking about there. So.
Yeah, there's also a new heat pump that does heat scavenging, which should help a lot with winter efficiency. Unfortunately, well, you can look at this one of two ways. It's not super unfortunate to me because a lot of the stuff that they've changed on this regard is stuff that's not like crucial to me. But there's some cost cutting they did on the interior and just kind of exterior features that to kind of help bring the manufacturing cost down. So the camp speaker that was previously included on all models is no longer included. It's now an optional extra. If you don't order the camp speaker, where the camp speaker goes, you instead get a drawer, which kind of addresses the R1 vehicles don't have a glove box. So if you have the drawer, maybe you then at least have somewhere to store your insurance and registration. The utility panel, which is the built-in air compressor, and then the gear guard system is no longer standard unless you go up to the top trims. And then, again, the new premium audio is no longer included on the vehicles.
So, yeah, I will agree with what you say about the transmission. I did notice that for the little time I did ride in an R1S, that I'm not transmission, the suspension. The back suspension did feel a little squeaky, a little squishy. I did notice it in the R1T, but I am glad that they fixed that. So let's move to powertrain. What updates can we expect in that area?
Yeah, so powertrain is a pretty big improvements. So there's now 4 different options on the R1 line. You have your standard dual motor with a optional performance upgrade. That is a software update, and I believe it's also purchasable after the fact, which is cool. And then there's the new tri-motor option, and then the new quad, and then a updated quad motor option. So all 4 powertrains are all-wheel drive, and they use the front axle as primary. So they should, like, efficiency-wise, well, they should roughly be the same, like when you're just cruising. But they all use a new Rivian's new in-house developed oil-cooled permanent magnet motors. And there's a couple different changes they make for the tri-motor and quad motor. There's there's 2 different sizes of the motors, and the quad motors get the biggest size, and the tri-motor has 1 small, 1 large, or 2 large motors. I believe that's right. It might be the other way around. The quad motor is a beast. It's 1,025 horsepower, and the 0 to 60 time claimed of 2.5 seconds, which is insane on a vehicle that is either a 3-row SUV or a pickup truck. There's also 3 new battery options with these powertrains. The dual motor configs can be had with all 3 battery options. There's the standard pack, the large pack, and the max pack. The tri and quad configs can only be had with the max pack. I personally, which I think I'm in the minority on this, I'm most excited about the new standard pack because it is it's 92.5 kilowatt hour, which is kind of low for a truck. You know, I think base F-150 Lightning is 99 kilowatt hour, I believe. It might be 95 or so. But the new pack uses LFP chemistry, which LFP chemistry doesn't have near the same kind of thermal constraints under charging and that typical nickel metal cadmium has. And so the hope is, while the standard pack has a lower DC fast charge peak, it's only at 200 kilowatt versus 220 kilowatt. Hopefully it has a more flat curve because it has a lot better thermal tolerance. Unfortunately, the standard pack is assembled overseas, so standard pack vehicles will not qualify for any of the federal tax credit unless they change the requirements in the future, which they change it seems like every week. The max pack is largely unchanged from the old model, just some manufacturing tweaks that will bring down costs for Rivian. Pack is 141 kilowatt hours still and has a peak charge rate of around 220 kilowatt. The large pack is changed, but Rivian hasn't quite told us how they've changed it. The usable capacity is down fairly significantly on versus the old outgoing large pack. The old outgoing large pack was 135 kilowatt hour, whereas the new one is only 109. So it's a pretty decent drop, but they haven't told us why. And so many are currently speculating that the now large pack is actually a software locked max pack. That would make sense. That would help some with manufacturing. You know, they're only building 2 battery packs instead of 3 battery packs. But we won't know that for certain until either Rivian tells us or when they start getting into customer hands and people can dig into like voltages on the packs and charge curves and whatever, and can see, you know, how does it line up versus the actual max pack. Using the dual motor powertrains and then the range figures, which we're basing on 22-inch road tires on the R1T. The standard range hasn't really changed much. It's 270 miles. Large pack is 330 miles, and then max pack is 420.
And I have the same, you know, opinion as you. For what I do with trucks, which isn't much, the standard pack would be perfect for me. I like what they've done with it, and I see as a car that I could probably get in the near future. Do these powertrains differ from what's currently out there or not?
Yeah, so the tri-motor is a new powertrain completely. The current trucks did not have the only options were dual motor or quad motor. The dual motors are roughly the same motors as before. They had switched to the oil cooled, but the quad motor is new. The old quad motor system was developed by Bosch, and whereas the new one is using the Rivian in-house motors. They also, on the Gen 1 cars, there was a standard plus pack, which was always a little weird to me. That is no longer optioned. And then the Gen 1 large pack was rated for more 352 miles on a charge, but that makes sense considering it has 20-ish kilowatt hour more capacity.
Gotcha. So what I'm most excited about is their software. I already think Rivian already has great software and great driver assistance, but what updates can we expect to see with their software and driver assistance?
Yeah, so I agree. This is kind of where some of their coolest changes have come. They've completely redesigned the electrical system on the Gen 2 cars to reduce complexity and therefore also bring down cost. They've now have it wired into what they're calling 3 zones, where instead of there being 17 ECUs in the car, there are now only 7. And the way these zones are working is basically they have I think it's south, east, and west zone. And so all the components on that side of the car all go back to one central ECU. And then those ECUs are linked with Ethernet in between them. So instead of it being like, all your doors are all routed to all one side of the car, they can now, the passenger side doors go to one ECU and the driver's side, stuff like that. And so by doing that, they reduce the wiring, they reduce a lot of that compute overhead. They've also gone in and done a pretty beefy compute upgrade on these. The new cars have use a new NVIDIA CPU architecture that is pretty beefy. It's beefy enough that Rivian feels the need to actually liquid cool the module that contains the new NVIDIA chips, which is pretty cool. And they're part of what they're using that for is they're calling the new Rivian Autonomy Platform, which that system uses. It's not a great name, but that system currently, or on the new R1, will use 11 cameras, 5 radars, and then artificial intelligence to kind of help gauge and see around the vehicle. And let's see, Rivian claims that the new NVIDIA modules are 10 times more powerful than the systems in the outgoing cars, which, we'll see. That would check out. That's probably why they're liquid cooled. And the new RAP will give the cars the ability to perform automatic lane changes. They're talking about, hands-free functionality coming soon. There are new interior cameras to help monitor driver attention, to help kind of enable that in the future. And they're updating the mapping to add new roads and then update existing roads. Then infotainment-wise, which the infotainment lives on the same architecture or same module as the upgraded NVIDIA driver's assistance module. But it is mainly just performance UI oriented. As I mentioned earlier, the UI is now all kind of animated, drawn graphics instead of using like images. And it's all done on the Unreal Engine, which is really cool. That's, if you're into video games, that's what most of your major video games use. And then they're also introducing a new subscription, which honestly has been a long time coming. It's been insane to me that Rivian has been selling these vehicles for, 2 or 3 years now, and they've included this for free. It seems like one of those obvious revenue streams that they could pretty easily charge for, and they're finally doing it. So they're calling it Connect Plus. And as part of it, they are adding new functionality as well. Connect Plus is basically kind of the equivalent to Tesla's premium connectivity. And it adds Google Cast, which it's important to note, Connect Plus is coming to existing R1 vehicles as well. But so it adds in Google Cast, which will allow you to stream video to the infotainment screen, and it will unlock, I believe they claim, thousands of apps that will do that. It's essentially kind of like a Chromecast, but built into the truck. They're also adding Apple Music to the infotainment, and then on the new trucks that have the premium audio, you'll be able to use Dolby Atmos in Apple Music, which should be cool. And as part of Connect Plus, the in-vehicle hotspot will be unlimited, which I believe the pricing on Connect Plus was, let me just double check. I don't want to say the wrong number. I believe it's $15 a month.
Oh, so that's not bad at all. No.
No, I mean, that's super cheap, especially when you consider if it's, unlimited data. Yeah, $15 a month. Unlimited data, I mean, you're not going to find anything that cheap especially if you're using like the vehicle hotspot a lot.
Yeah, for $15 a month, I pay for access to a Kia app that basically can start the car and unlock the doors and tell me where it is. So yeah, that's basically all I get for $15 a month with my Kia app. So with all these changes, is the goal to bring down the price of the car or lower their operating cost, or both? I know they're trying to save the money with the wiring. So what is their goal?
So from what I can tell, the starting prices on the vehicles hasn't really changed. So one of the big emphasis, and this has kind of been known for a while, was Rivian wanted to reduce costs to manufacture. And so that's where a lot of these changes are coming in, with stuff like reducing wiring, reducing the number of ECUs to be able to do the same or more compute, but then require less silicon. That's always a good thing. Adding in this Connect Plus subscription so that they have kind of a recurring monthly revenue stream, and then doing stuff like, removing features that maybe not everyone needs, but if they want, they can go back and pay extra for. So, I'm sure a lot of Rivian owners have never really touched the camp speaker. So what's the point in adding a $450 accessory for free, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you really want the camp speaker, Rivian's happy to sell it to you.
Yep.
I am a little bummed, they removed the utility panel. To me, that's a super cool feature, having the built-in air compressor. As someone who rides a bike, and it's constantly, it seems like every time I get my bike out, one of the tires is flat and I'm having to get the air pump and pump it up. Having the built-in air compressor would be epic. But I can understand where, there's a lot of people that won't ever use it, right? So really, for me, it seems like their main goal, and it seems like they've done a pretty good job, was to reduce the manufacturing costs. They've also, by adding in all these trim levels and options, they've kind of increased the spread that people will be purchasing, and hopefully will then increase the average purchasing cost. And so they'll be, because, it costs roughly the same amount of money to make the standard dual motor that it does to make the dual motor max pack, right? Mm-hmm. Or large pack. So each trim level up, they charge more, but then that kind of increases the gap between the manufacturing cost and then what you're actually paying.
Sweet. So what do these updates mean to the future of electric vehicles, and particularly to Rivian's future? How do you see these updates affecting their future R1 and R3 vehicles?
Yeah, so I hope that, on Rivian, by using these the refresh R1s and having access to all this new training data on, how the driving data and sensor data, whatever, they can start determining stuff like, on the R2 and R3, do they need radar? Can they get by with only a vision-only system? Or do they decide maybe they need more ultrasonics? They'll kind of get that. And then as we see R1 continue to mature, they may decide, to get mid-cycle refresh for refresh and maybe reduce the number of cameras and then reduce complexity. And then also just, they'll have access to more and more and more training data as more of these vehicles get out on the road.
All right. And last thing, any other changes we need to be aware of or that you are excited about?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm most excited, honestly, about the new standard pack. LFP chemistry is super cool, and I'm excited to see kind of how that works hopefully in Rivian's favor. Hopefully, the charge curve is good, and real world performance, it stays pretty well. Because, like you mentioned earlier, it's for what I don't tow, or if I do, it's never for super far. So I don't need a gigantic battery. If I can get a smaller battery that charges well, I'm good to go. That 270-mile range. Now, of course, EPA is always higher than what you'll actually get on the highway. But, I've got a 2-year-old. We're stopping anyway.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
So, I can't drive 400 miles without stopping. That's just not a thing. So I'm cool with the 270, maybe 250 miles of highway range, as long as it then charges well when we do stop. And it's just exciting to see kind of all the ways Rivian was able to meet their goal of reducing the manufacturing cost of the vehicles while still not really hurting the customer. There's this refresh is still a pretty significant improvement to the actual lineup. It's not like they reduce manufacturing costs, but also reduce the vehicle by quite a bit. So the dual and tri-motor configurations are currently available to order, and the deliveries are expected to start later this year. And then the quad motor config is currently in that reservation status, and I believe they plan to open the order books on that one early in 2025.
Gotcha. All right, this has been awesome. I'm so excited that Rivian is finally making some refresh to their lineup. They have some exciting features coming out with their Gen 2 R1S and R1T, and we cannot wait to see them on the roads in the near future. Sebastian, you have been awesome in keeping us updated about the latest and greatest from Rivian. You can find Sebastian on X at Kilowatt Station. Also, please make sure you subscribe to the EV Geek podcast on YouTube. And also, please feel free to comment and like our videos. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again on our next episode. So long, everyone.